Wilson Fisk has arrived. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with episode 4 of Daredevil. And yeah, so last episode at the very end, we finally get the arrival of Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, the main villain of this series, and I'm actually a little surprised he arrived this soon. Like, the season's like 12, 13 episodes, right? I honestly kind of didn't expect him until like the halfway point. I felt like they were going to build up to him, maybe mention him here and there, but not actually introduce him. I was wrong. We just got him this episode, or well, last episode. I assume we'll probably see him this episode too, but unless that's kind of what they're going to go for. They introduce him at first, but then like don't bring him back for a little bit. Kind of just set the stage, get everybody excited. I don't know, but I talked about him quite a bit last time. Wilson Fisk is a very imposing force. He's a huge villain for multiple New York-based superheroes within the comics, and he's just got like he's got this aura about him to where it's like he's not necessarily the most unique or interesting villain necessarily, but he has such a presence that it allows him to stand out amongst them. Like, you think of villains Spider-Man has fought, for example, and you think of like the Green Goblin or Venom or Doc Ock. They're more interesting, they're more unique, but Kingpin is just this imposing force that almost kind of has a bigger presence than some of the other villains that Spider-Man has fought. And Daredevil, it's like, I don't know a lot of Daredevil villains, to be fair. Is Bullseye one of them? I think Bullseye is one of them. But Kingpin is like the Daredevil villain. And so that, stacked with the fact that we got Vincent D'Onofrio playing the role, is just like perfection. And everybody loves this role. Everyone loves this performance. That's something that you just can't escape, even if you've never seen this and never really looked up spoilers. People have praised this performance so much, and I'm very excited to see why. We only got a tiny glimpse of him in the last episode, so hopefully we get to see a lot more of that now. And I also want to see just more episodes like last episode that kind of balances the lawyer side of Matt Murdock with the Daredevil side, because I like seeing the cool action sequences, like the hallway fights and whatnot, the really intense like graphic battles and stabbings and shit. But I also like to see him, be Matt Murdock, be a lawyer, just like get involved in these courtroom cases. It's like that's just as interesting to me. And that's a thing that any kind of superhero story should strive for. I talked about this a bit last time, but a lot of superheroes are just as much their alter ego as they are the superhero persona. They are both of them. When you watch a Spider-Man movie or play a Spider-Man game, you want to see just as much good stuff with Peter Parker or Miles Morales as you do with Spider-Man. You want to see like the alter ego have a time to shine as well. And the Spider-Man PlayStation games do an excellent job at that. Both Peter and Miles are phenomenal in those games, and they really get to shine as themselves, not just as Spider-Man. And that's what we want. They do the same thing with the Spider-Verse games. And that's what I want from this series with Matt Murdock. I want to see just as much with Matt as I do with Daredevil. I want to see him focused on as a lawyer, as a person. And not just like, oh, he takes off his mask after he gets beat up and stabbed and shit, and he's like, having flashbacks to times with his father and stuff. No, I want to see like modern current stuff of him just being a lawyer. And yeah, connect it to his Daredevil persona like it did last episode. Have it be like, oh, something's clearly rigged in this case. I should go like confront this person about it as Daredevil later on. Yeah, stuff like that's fine. But I still do want to see him, putting together these cases and figuring out these just courtroom things. I'm clearly not the best in terms of lingo, but you know what I mean. Um, I just want to see more of that, and I hope that this series balances that out well. We do have Foggy and Karen to give a little more B plot action with. We know Karen is trying to handle things with the entire like being paid off to forget about what happened before, and Foggy's definitely the more light-hearted character of the trio. He's kind of like the fun guy who's very human, for lack of a better word. Not that Matt and Karen aren't, but Foggy is like constantly like questioning everything. Like he seems very anxious at times, like when dealing with that client from last episode. He was extremely anxious about taking that job on. But you also see him get excited about getting jobs because, making the money. And it's just like he just has so much like relatable personality to him. And I like that. It gives a little bit of levity to the series, so it's not so serious all the time. Because let's be honest, Matt can get a bit serious. And I'm hoping that it just kind of keeps these vibes alive as it continues on. Now, I will say, I've been thinking about this, and I mentioned this in previous ones as well, about the possibility of taking a break halfway through the season. I think it's going to be one of those shows where I'm going to need that. I'm already kind of feeling the vibes of this series can not necessarily weigh on me in the same way that Doom Patrol did, but I can see it like if I tried to go through the entire season in one go, it would start to drag a little for me. I'm already starting to feel kind of those vibes, and I've only like reacted to like one episode since coming back, or 2 episodes, 2 episodes, yeah, 2 episodes. Um, this is the third one since coming back. It's episode 4. I've only reacted to a couple episodes since coming back after years, but I feel like and this I kind of feel with any series, especially live action series that's 45 minutes to an hour long each episode. A lot of these shows, at least the ones I've reacted to, have been pretty serious in that regards, and that can take a lot out of me just in terms of my mental health. Um, Animation tends to be easier for me to digest, which is why I do focus on it for the most part with this channel. But I do want to do live action stuff too. And there's been multiple things that I've really enjoyed with that. Like I've been enjoying Lucifer, I'm enjoying this, and there's other shows that I did like first impressions to that I want to continue. It's just it does sometimes take a bit out of me. I mean, there's some examples out there that were like kind of different with that, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series or the Miss Marvel series, both of which I just was like super invested in. But those are going to be like not super common, I feel, for live action shows with me. Also, I think one of those was I think only around 30 minutes each. Um and then there's like stuff like Cabinet of Curiosities, which is an anthology series, and that definitely makes it easier to digest. With each episode being its own thing, that actually makes it a lot easier to digest for me. But with like animation, it's like I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's just like some kind of weird thing with my autism. but it's just it's easier to like handle week to week. And even then, with certain animated shows, I've had to take breaks. So I think it just depends on the show when it comes down to it. Like, I understand not every show is going to be like One Piece, where it's like, oh, I could watch this almost forever without really getting burnt out. I've only gotten burnt out on One Piece, I think, once, once or twice. And to be honest, I didn't actually completely get burnt out on it. I just decided, like, I could use a little bit of a break. But yeah, not every show's gonna be like that. But some shows, it's just I need to take a little bit off. So I'm thinking like about halfway through. So I'm thinking like maybe after episode 6 we'll take a break. And if I'm remembering right, based on my schedule, I think that's the movie week at the end of this month. I think that aligns with that, if I'm remembering right. And so that would actually like really work out well, because then at the beginning of August I could just like move on to something else. But we'll see. We'll see. Also, I talked about before that I might be like switching things up with the schedule as it is anyway, just because of different things. Um, I'm starting to reach a point where I feel like I might need to cut down on some things a little bit. Maybe not completely, but a little bit. So I'm also thinking about that still. We'll figure it out as we go. For the time being, let's just get into this episode and hopefully see more Wilson Fisk. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Is it my birthday? No, it's July. My birthday's in January. But it feels like my birthday because I'm getting everything I asked for. I'm getting just exactly what I wanted with Fisk. Like, this is like... Listen, I love Vincent D'Onofrio as an actor. I knew he was going to do great. That's not even a surprise. Everything I've seen him in, he's always, fantastic. He does really well at any role he's given, no matter if it's more funny and silly or if it's more serious. Doesn't matter. But I mentioned this last time, how I wanted, like, Fisk to be shown fighting. We get him shown fighting. I talk about how he has this larger than life aura to him, this presence. And we get to see that in this. But we also get to see his humanity. We get to see how much of a real person he is. And like I said in the reaction, that humanization actually makes him more terrifying because it makes him more real. And I talked about last time as well how Wilson Fisk doesn't have like superpowers or anything, but he does have peak human strength and toughness. Like, that's always kind of been his thing. And we get to see that here. We get to show how strong, how tough he is during this short battle. And it's contrasted beautifully with showing how hurt Matt has gotten during this episode. How he's, having to be stitched up and everything. And even with Claire as well. Getting to see her get hurt and having to be stitched up. It paints this different picture. It creates this larger than life threat. But we also see his, like I said, his humanity. We get to see him meet and interact with Vanessa after the end of last episode. We get to see him go on a date with her. How he genuinely has fallen for her. And how fucking pissed he gets that his date with her was interrupted and that he was embarrassed in front of her. We get to see, like, both sides to him. His very gentle, kind of awkward human side that, like, again, makes him feel like a real person. But then we get to see the Kingpin. We get to see how tough and scary and just how easy it is to kill for him. Like, he had no hesitation there. And it's just, it sets the tone perfectly. We already know he's the main villain. We already understand that he's, the big cheese. But we see in this episode the reason why. We get to understand, for those who may not have known who Kingpin was prior to this, or at least didn't know him very well, you get to see exactly what makes him so intimidating. What makes him such a phenomenal villain. Like, I've known Kingpin a long time. I've always been into, like, Spider-Man. Spider-Man's, like, a childhood favorite of mine, so I've seen Kingpin a lot. Even though I haven't, like, always been into Daredevil and stuff, it's like Kingpin, again, appears with other heroes, too. And Spider-Man being a big one. And it's like the PS4 game obviously did him excellently with Travis Willingham voicing him. You have many different comics. You have many different... he's been in other games, I believe. I want to say he was in one of the Ultimate Alliance games, I think. Maybe? And he might have been in a Marvel vs. Capcom game. I'm not 100% on that, but he might have been. It's very possible. I mean, Blackheart was in at least one of those games. I think 2 of them. And if you're going to have Blackheart, you could definitely have Wilson Fisk. Anyway. The point being that this episode, like, really, really nailed his character in just every way. And again, obviously, Vincent D'Onofrio did a phenomenal job portraying that. It's just like... everything I wanted for his character, we got here. And we didn't have to wait. It didn't make us wait any more episodes. It didn't, like, hold off on that. Because it's building, like, him as being an important part of this season's story with the Russian mafia and everything. Which, apparently, he's now going to completely just go to war with. And that's going to make things a lot more dangerous in Hell's Kitchen. Especially for the likes of Claire and... Matt. And I'm including Claire in this because she's kind of involved in it now. It's just... it's pretty crazy. In the best way. And we also did have, like, some side stuff with Foggy and Karen in this. Foggy just, like, wanting some, like, equipment for the office. And telling his story of how he was going to be, a butcher. Which is a fun idea. Like, I could maybe see him doing that. But we also get Karen, and we get to continue following up with her and Ben. And Ben is offering to help her, but doesn't want her directly involved because he doesn't want her to ruin her life to do any of that. But he is helping, and he's basically telling her, sign the contract. And she's like, but I won't be able to say anything publicly about it at that point. He's like, yeah, but I'm not signing. It's like, you sign the contract, you kind of get out of this scot-free. You're going to be set. But if I break this news, I'm not under contract. I can do that. And I'm already a pretty well-respected reporter. Like, people are going to believe me. People are going to see that. The only thing I can see as the problem here is that Ben is obviously putting himself in major risk. And as much as I hate to say it, I could see him dying. I very much could see the possibility of him being killed. Or even worse, his wife being like threatened. I don't know. It feels weird to say that's even worse than him being killed, his wife being threatened or killed, but at the same time, it's like he would definitely view it that way. Because he definitely values his wife more than himself. He's willing to put himself at risk, as we see here, as long as other people don't have to take that risk instead. He's a very good person. And he has a lot of integrity. He's great. I like Ben. But I could also see him being kind of like a big statement kill, for lack of a better way to put it. And just like really making a big horrible moment of it in the series. I mean, if it doesn't happen, I would be more than happy with that, but I could see it happening. I can only imagine how that would end up affecting Karen, though. Like, geez. But yeah, I really, really like this episode. And as much as, like, I did enjoy the stuff with Karen and Ben, as much as I did enjoy, like, Matt kicking ass and even Claire getting the final hit in there. All fantastic moments. It's the Kingpin stuff completely overshadowed everything else for me here. And maybe it's just because of, like, me being a fan of Kingpin prior to this. Like, loving him as a villain. And maybe it's because it's, like, again, it did, like, live up to all of my hopes and desires for this character just in this episode alone, and gave me everything I wanted to see. It's like, outside of, you know, him fighting Matt specifically, but they have to build up to that. Maybe it's just because of all of that, but it's just like, it was just such perfect writing for him. And acting and dialogue, and honestly, the chemistry between him and Vanessa's actress, phenomenal. Like, really great chemistry, too. They work so well off of each other. And I can only imagine how much further they're going to go into this relationship. Because, again, Vanessa in the comics and most things is married to him. I assume that's going to happen here. If you've ever seen, like, Spider-Verse, for example, you see Vanessa and that with their son as well. So it's like you get that context even in other media specifically around that. I don't think she's in... I think I said this last time. I don't think Vanessa's in the Spider-Man PS4 game with him at all. I don't even know if she's mentioned. I might be wrong, but I don't think she is. But yeah, it's like, I'm very curious to see how this goes, especially with, you know, their date obviously ending very poorly and her not knowing what to think at this point. I assume it's going to kind of work out, though. But it is interesting that this is, like, early Fisk. Like, this is him, like, just as a crime boss at the moment. He's not, like, this business owner. He's not, like, a politician yet. And I'm really interested to see if that stuff does come into this. Like, if he does start his company and everything. If he does end up becoming a politician. I feel like it would have to go in that order, though. I feel like he would have to start the company first. It just makes the most sense to me. Because he has to get his public image out there. I really do hope that happens. Because, I could see it happening. It just kind of, like, tracks. And two, I think it would just be a cool little addition that would help expand his character even further. This is, like, just... This episode really won me over in the best of ways. And while it's like... While I do, like, get excited over this, it's like... I definitely do still feel like I'm probably going to need to take a break halfway through the season. I want to still touch on that here. I feel like it's going to be the best decision. And it's for reasons like this. The fact that I do enjoy this so much. I definitely don't want even the chance of, like, burning myself out on it. I don't want the chance of, like, getting to that point where it's like, I'm just getting exhausted by the series and having trouble getting to it each week. I want to make sure that I handle this as best I can to really enjoy this as best as I can. Because I definitely don't want to lose the spark that I currently have with this series. That's happened with other shows before, and I just don't want it to happen with this. So, yeah, this was just so good. I'm really excited to see what more they do. And I hope Fisk, I really want him to be like a constant in pretty much every episode. I don't think that's going to happen. We might get little bits of him in some episodes and like bigger amounts in others. Like, obviously, he had a big role in this episode, but of course, this was just after introducing him. I think that we'll probably get like episodes as well that have like only little bits of him in it and focus on the other storylines too. And then we'll come back to more of them that have him as a bigger role. It's probably going to go back and forth with that. Just like how some episodes will probably have Foggy in a bigger role than like he was in this one. He was barely a character in this episode. He basically had the butcher story and wanting equipment for the office, and that's it. But he'll have other episodes that he'll definitely have a bigger role in. So, yeah, I mean, I'm expecting the same thing for Kingpin. It's not going to disappoint me when an episode has like very little of him in it. But yeah, I just can't wait to see more. Like, if nothing else has hooked me into this series prior to now, this is the thing that has absolutely grabbed my attention the most. And again, yes, it's at least partially because I already know the character pretty well. Not perfectly, there's a lot of things I don't know, but I know him pretty well compared to, like, other stuff in this series. Like, I think he's the only character from this that I actively did know prior to this, outside of, like, just Daredevil in general. Um, and the Russian brothers and everything, definitely not who I was thinking of. I'll just leave it at that. Especially when it like turned out there were like three of them and everything, so it's like definitely just not what I was thinking of. I was getting it more mixed up with Spider-Man. I don't know if the character that I was thinking of even like really cross over with Daredevil in any way. Um, but I was like getting it mixed up with like Spider-Man characters because again the comparison with Kingpin and everything. So it's just not who I was thinking. So yeah. But either way, let me know what your thoughts are on this episode down in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.